The new Onewheel GT S-Series, or the GTS as I'll call it for short, recently released to much fanfare and quite the change in tone since the GT released not that long ago. A lot of it probably due to the popularity of VESC-based onewheels and the now available Floatwheel ADV. Those all will be discussed later in upcoming videos though. This one is just a look at the range test I did for the GTS and how it performed in the context of two other boards I tested at about the same time. And so, 3 consecutive range tests were done. This one for the GTS, one for the Floatwheel ADV Pro, and one for my own custom VESC board which I call the Galleon. Those will be published shortly after this video. I did my best to place these tests as close together as possible with the closest ambient temperature in order to make these as comparable as possible. So while these mileage figures may not be what someone else gets, they are at least as accurate a comparison as I could get in these circumstances. Some riders may get more mileage, and that's good, but what these tests may highlight is the relative range that these setups may get when compared side by side. The details are as follows. Battery was of course charged to full, which is an hour left on the charger after a green light and full battery confirmed in the app. Tire pressure at 14 psi because that's how I set it. Others may set theirs differently. Mine is at 14 psi. Rider weight with gear is 195 pounds or 88.5 kilos. Ambient temperature was about 55 degrees Fahrenheit or 12.7 degrees Celsius. Riding speed was a constant 20 miles per hour, give or take 1 mile per hour, or about 32 kilometers per hour. The Relive recording averages out stops into the top speed, of which there were a few to start and stop the drone, so you're just going to have to take my word for it, unfortunately. There was a moderate crosswind almost the entire ride, sometimes shifting into a headwind in both directions, due to the route being not just right off the water, but between waters. Most of the route was flat, with some slight inclines and declines due to bridges. On this ride, I was able to ride 14.4 miles, 21.3 kilometers, before the board went into low battery pushback and haptic buzz made me stop riding. At that point, I walked and carried the board back to the car. The battery in the GTS is a 27S 1P configuration, which is 27 cells in series with only 1 cell in parallel, and is rated at 437.4 watt-hours for context. As usual, rider weight, ambient temperature, and ride style will affect energy consumption and therefore range. This kind of ride is actually fairly intensive despite it being on pavement and a fairly smooth cruise. The presence of the headwind and crosswinds take a toll similar to riding up a constant uphill, and the ride itself is mostly unbroken, with the majority of it being a constant drain on the battery under some pretty resistive conditions. All that being said, thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. The other range tests will be published right after this, as well as reviews on all the boards tested.